The day that seemed like just another quiet morning in Washington, D.C. was, in reality, the day one of the biggest scandals in American politics would be exposed. Karoline Leavitt, known as a fierce politician fighting for justice, was about to face more than just a political opponent. She was up against a deeply entrenched network of corruption within the system. Today, one of America's greatest scandals would erupt, and Karoline would stand her ground against those trying to cover it up. As Karoline entered the Capitol building, a strange unease settled within her. For weeks, she had been working on an investigation that would finally be discussed in a major hearing today. She had in her possession documents proving the misuse of government funds, as well as confidential witness testimonies. But the real challenge she faced today wasn't just uncovering the truth. It was taking on a powerful figure the system had long protected, Senator Richard Donovan. Donovan had maintained a spotless public image for years, but behind the scenes, he was allegedly at the center of a massive corruption scheme. With deep political connections and strong influence over the media, he had always managed to escape justice. But this time, Karoline was standing in his way, determined to prove that even the most untouchable figures could be held accountable. As the Senate Investigative Committee opened its session, the room was packed. Journalists filled the front rows, recording every word, while the public followed the developments through a live broadcast. Donovan's lawyers sat confidently, their relaxed demeanor suggesting they believed this would be just another routine political hearing. But the evidence Karoline held in her hands would put them in a far more difficult position than they expected. Once the committee chair finished the opening remarks, Karoline was given the floor. She took a deep breath, adjusted the files on the table, pulled the microphone closer, and began to speak. It is our duty to ensure that the American people's money is used properly. However, the evidence in our possession clearly shows that certain government funds have been misused. These funds were allocated for infrastructure projects and public services, yet it appears that some individuals chose to fill their own pockets instead. These words sent a wave of silence through the room. Donovan calmly looked at Karoline, leaned forward with a smirk, and turned on his microphone. Ms. Leavitt, are you accusing me here? If you truly have solid evidence, please present it. But let's not waste time with baseless speculation. Karoline narrowed her eyes. Donovan's composed demeanor showed that he believed he was untouchable, but she knew the documents in her possession would soon shatter his confidence. Senator Donovan, I don't just have speculation, I have real evidence. With that, she projected the documents onto the screen. These records showed that the government had funneled millions of dollars into certain projects, but the funds had actually been redirected to companies that didn't even exist. The smug expression on Donovan's face disappeared. His attorney immediately objected. These documents are invalid. These claims are completely unfounded and nothing more than a political attack. But Karoline remained composed and continued. These are not just documents. We also have direct audio recordings from individuals involved in these transactions. The tension in the room rose instantly. Then a recording began to play over the speakers. Transfer these funds to the locations I specified. Don't worry, no one will notice. Keep Karoline Leavitt out of this. Find something to distract her. The voice belonged to Richard Donovan. A stir rippled through the room. Journalists scrambled to take notes, some whispering among themselves. Donovan had always believed he could outsmart any situation with his intellect and connections. But this time, things were different. Karoline had just exposed his biggest secret in front of everyone. Donovan leaned toward his microphone, but his voice no longer carried the same confident, mocking tone. There was a slight tremble. These recordings are illegal. We don't even know where you got them. Are you seriously trying to incriminate me with a recording that has no legal validity? Karoline narrowed her gaze and responded. These recordings were obtained legally under a court order. And this is not just one audio file. I also have witness testimonies confirming that you pressured court officials to cover up these transactions. Donovan's attorney lunged forward. Our client has done no such thing. This is completely fabricated, he shouted. But Karoline calmly picked up the final document on the table and projected it onto the screen. This document proves that the companies receiving government funds were fraudulent, and the money was actually funneled into specific private accounts. And do you know whose signature is on it? Senator Richard Donovan. A cold silence swept through the room. The smug expression on Donovan's face vanished, replaced by fear and rage. He pressed his hands against the table and stood up abruptly. This is a political stunt. Whoever forged this document, I can assure you their career is over. But no one paid attention to his threats anymore. Journalists were frantically taking notes, and the public was shifting to Karoline's side. A few jury members could be seen nodding in agreement with her. Donovan reached for his briefcase, rifling through some papers. His attorney whispered something urgently in his ear, but it was too late. When his panicked eyes met Karoline's, she simply tilted her head with a faint smile. "It looks like the game is over, Senator Donovan." At that moment, the courtroom doors swung open, and several security officers entered. The crowd stirred. Reporters aimed their cameras and phones at Donovan. The committee chair spoke in a firm voice. "Senator Donovan, a formal investigation has been launched against you on charges of abuse of power, embezzlement of public funds, and attempting to obstruct justice. You are hereby under arrest." Donovan spun around, his eyes darting wildly. He was desperately searching for a way out. But when he found none, his anger gave way to full-blown panic. "You can't do this! I'm a senator! No one here is more powerful than me!" he shouted. The security officers stepped toward him, but Donovan scanned the faces around him, looking for support. Yet neither his attorney nor his former allies dared to utter a single word in his defense. Camera flashes lit up the room. Jury members whispered to each other in disbelief. Donovan's trembling hands gripped the table tightly. In a last desperate attempt, he shouted once more, "This is a setup! Committee chair, I'm telling you, this isn't legal." But no one was listening anymore. The public now knew the truth. One of the security officers tightened the handcuffs around Donovan's wrists and spoke firmly. "Richard Donovan, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." For a brief moment, Donovan's eyes welled up. He had sat at the top of power for years, but now he had crashed from his lofty throne. The officers grabbed his arms and pulled him to his feet. In the crowd, someone quietly whispered, "We finally got our justice." Karoline took a deep breath as she watched it all unfold. Justice had finally been served, but for her this was just the beginning. She knew there were more battles ahead to cleanse the corruption that had taken root in the system. "This isn't just the downfall of one man," she murmured to herself. "This is the beginning of real change." So, do you think Karoline Leavitt truly succeeded in this fight? Is fighting corruption only about having the right evidence, or does it also require the support of the people? Was this just one scandal, or a glimpse into how deep the system's decay truly runs? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories. See you in the next video.